Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wannabe Entrepreneur, the podcast about what's really like to bootstrap a company. This time is a very, very special episode because I'm here with the CEO of Wundertax, Daniel. What's up? Everything good?
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much
for having me.
Amazing. And we are also in a special place, which is Podfest Berlin. And we have an audience. Please make some noise. There's thousands of people here. I'm feeling a bit... Yeah. Oh my God. And this is real. This is for real. So, the goal today will be like another WB interview where we have a founder and he'll be sharing the ups and downs of his journey. He's the founder of Wundertax, which is an amazing tool. It's a tool that I've used myself when I was living in Germany that basically makes taxes really simple. I remember that the only time I actually had to pay taxes was when actually my friend Stephanie that's here, she helped me do taxes the old way through the is it called Ersta website?
Yeah,
Ersta website. But since then, I've made a lot of money with your tool, so I'm really excited. And Daniel, I will start by asking you to just share a little bit about yourself, what's your background, some short introduction, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually born in Hong Kong. My dad's German. My mom's from Taiwan. I grew up in Hong Kong, went to the German school. And when I was 18, I moved to Germany to study business near Koblenz, which is halfway between...
I love Koblenz. Really beautiful.
Yeah, you've been?
Yeah.
Oh,
really
okay,
cool.
wow. Do you know the big statue of Kaiser Wilhelm?
Is it by the river?
The big statue.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive and pretty controversial.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, because it's the emperor that, with the war and
right,
everything.
Yeah. Awkward.
And then I studied business. I went to Hong Kong afterwards. Worked for Rocket Internet, Food Panda. I did finance there, which was a great learning experience. Because I think we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a recurring theme, but as a founder or when running a company, you're basically always worried about, can you pay salaries? Can you pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
And we were basically in Hong Kong, and it was a focus market of Food Panda, and they said like, okay, hey, just grow. And whatever you need at the end of the month in cash, we will send it to you. So what we did was, we hired a bunch of drivers, we got a new office, etc. And at the end of the month, every month, we were just like writing an email to Germany saying like, okay, we need this amount.
It's crazy.
And then 3 questions, and then that amount came. So it was like a playground for us in entrepreneurship and in company building, because we didn't have to worry about the money part. The money part. We could actually just build. And then I went to Berlin, as you do if you want to be in the startup scene.
Yeah.
And I was jobbing around a bit, and then me and an old university mate, we met up, and he was like, "Hey, I have this, idea. Let's do taxes for students."
Okay.
So there's this thing, like whoever's been to German university, they always have these seminars for students to get back their taxes, and they tell you what you can deduct from your taxes, so you can get money back later when you start your job. And basically, these guys are just these insurance salesmen.
Yeah.
They tell you what you can deduct. They don't tell you how you can deduct it. And at the end of the day, they try to sell you an insurance that you don't need.
Why do you need to pay taxes?
You don't need to pay. That's the thing.
So you can just get money back.
There's this tax feature, I would say, that not a lot of people know about, which is, as a student, you can, if it's your second study, so if it's a master or if you've done an apprenticeship before that, you can actually deduct a lot of costs that you've accumulated during your studies from your from your taxes and have like a negative income, basically. So you have a loss carry forward.
Okay.
For
Once you get a job, or like right when you're in
for that
university?
year when you're actually handing it in. So
Let me ask, Bidesh, did you know this because you went to school here? Was it something you never did?
Interesting, because depending on the state you're in Germany, so they might have different facilities for you. I studied in Bremen.
Yeah.
And there, if you go to Finanzamt and say, hey, I'm a student and I want to do my taxes, they just do everything for you right there.
Okay.
And then you just get if there is anything to be paid, then they just say, okay, you need to send this to us, or they just, you just get it back.
Wow, people in Bremen are nice, because in
Yeah.
Berlin they would tell you to fuck off. No, so the thing is, like, you what you do is you hand in your costs. So and this is, everyone's like, oh, but what costs did I have? But it's actually, if you go for an exchange semester in, I think Norway is the highest rate. If you do an exchange semester in Norway, you get 80 euros per day.
Wow.
That up to 90 days that you can deduct from your taxes.
Wow.
And basically all that money, once you start working, is deducted from your gross salary, and you get the difference back in taxes. That's the short version of it.
And your friend, he knew about this?
No, we both knew about it.
You both knew.
But he was, so he told me, like, do you remember that seminar? That was where they tried to sell us the insurances we don't need.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh yeah, of course. And then we sat together and we were like, okay, let's build a tool actually for the students to do their to hand in their taxes.
And it was the beginning of the idea of what became then Wundertax.
Studentensteuererklärung.
Studentensteuer. Okay. So before getting into that, I would like to understand more about, like, I have always a bunch of questions about backgrounds and everything. What is the biggest difference between, growing up and living in Hong Kong and Germany? I guess there's probably a lot of differences, but like in terms of mindset, in terms of culture, what would you pinpoint as the biggest difference?
Where to begin? So, like, whoever's ever like been to Hong Kong, you will notice how fast everything is, and how I wouldn't say chaotic, but it's just very, very fast moving, everything, and it can get overwhelming. So I would say, like, also the mindset of a lot of people is just much more, it's quite fast paced, and it's very competitive in Hong Kong as well. Yeah, it's there's a lot of talk and thought about money is definitely a thing in Hong Kong, which, I mean, who's ever been there will know that, like, property prices are very, very high. It's one of the biggest centers of finance and trade of the world. It's, I think, the third largest financial hotspot. So it's very, very competitive.
Is that good or bad?
I mean, depends who you ask, right?
Right.
Like,
for an entrepreneur, let's say.
For an entrepreneur, I mean, this is a whole different Pandora's box. I think in Hong Kong there's a big tendency from a cultural perspective. I mean, this is the stereotype, right, from an Asian mother who says you should either you become a banker or you become a doctor, a banker, or a lawyer, and that's very, very prevalent in Hong Kong, and the mindset, like, it's a stereotype for a reason. And
in Portugal is the same, I think.
Yeah,
I think in Portugal is also. You have, like, these professions you'll be like, okay, that's what you should do, and then when you say, like, I want to be an artist or something, they're like, you're crazy. Or, I want to be a soccer player, and I was could have been the Cristiano Ronaldo.
well, you're definitely more handsome than him.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Wow. Thank guys. Please. So I think, is it Germany? Like, Stephanie, then I'll ask you.
I would argue it's the same here. Like,
wait. Let's pass the microphone.
I would argue it's the same here. Like, I studied North American studies, and I think the biggest issue that my parents took with it is that I couldn't name a profession attached to it. Like, even if it's something like plumber, at least they have an idea of what that is. But if you become a doctor, or a lawyer, it's the same. Your parents will be very proud.
Engineer in Germany.
My brother is an engineer, so yeah.
Oh, let's not get into that. I'm joking.
No, so there's a lot of pressure from families, and I think like entrepreneurship. I mean, I get it. In Germany, it's a quite traditional way. Like if you're not an engineer, but in Hong Kong, it's like it's also a bit more of an issue of, you know, can you pay rent, you know, or do you have to, you know, everyone's seen those pictures of the tiny houses, the tiny apartments, and everything. I mean, a lot of Hong Kong young people they hate it, right? Like they're moving to Malaysia or to Thailand because they can afford places to live in, just don't have that high paced competitive thing. So, I mean, it depends who you ask, right? Like quality of life, if you want to, is definitely on average better in Germany, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, and relating to entrepreneurship, there's not that much going on in Hong Kong, I would say, for the scale of you know, finance and everything that they have, because you don't want, like, you failed your family if you become, you know, if you chase something weird.
True. So when did you kind of, because it seems that you've been an entrepreneur almost from the start.
Much to the chagrin of my mom.
Yeah. So is that something that runs in your family? Is there some like entrepreneurial background? I'm always interested in understanding like where kind of did you figure out that you just want to build stuff and you don't want to work for others? Like, do you remember when is like your first idea, your first business? How did it come to be?
I don't think that. So in general, my family's not very entrepreneurial. Okay. I mean, my dad was a manager at Metro in Hong Kong for sourcing. My mom's a Chinese tutor. But I do think like during my studies there was very much like when you study business at my school, right? Like you can become a consultant. Like most people become a consultant, or like go to a bank, or you know, do like entrepreneurship. And I just had that feeling. I didn't necessarily have the feeling of I don't want to have a boss, but more of that, you know, building something, which was just exciting. You know, it was exciting to. I mean, I always had this affinity to tech, right? Like, I mean, this sounds super lame, but you know, watching the Apple keynote with my dad as a kid. But like, I always had these affinities for innovation and building stuff, and that was just very exciting once you get the taste of it because our university is very entrepreneurial, WHU, and lots of founders are in Berlin are graduated from there. So it was very exciting to hear those stories, and I think it's also after the experience with Food Panda was that kind of sparked, you know, that excitement.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. So from my side, my dad is an entrepreneur. My grandfather, both grandfathers. So I kind of have this background, and I'm always excited to hear like people that didn't have this, and I guess we'll figure out, because you cannot ask them, right? So for me, if I have some questions, especially about taxes in Portugal, I can ask my father and so on. So let's get back to our storyline. So you come with this idea of building a tool to help students declare their taxes, get some money back. You don't have a coding background, right?
No.
Did the co-founder have like?
No.
So how do you build? Just tell me the story. What were the next steps when you decide? Okay, maybe you can do something here. What are the next steps?
So the next step was to look at the most basic version of what would work. Like nowadays, you would call it an MVP.
Yeah.
But what we did was we looked at, okay, what would a student typically, you know, what was the bare minimum what they needed to hand in to do a tax return, right? So we actually built it in Excel, so that you can, you know, type it, and then we gave it to a freelancer. We had
How long did it take to build the first version?
Like a month, 1.5, something like that.
Yeah, so quite fast.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was very, very bare bones, right? Like it was. You couldn't like put in your income or anything. Like it was just for those students that really didn't do anything and just had costs. Yeah, just to get that. So the minimum, and then what we did is we actually used Facebook groups. So we went on
Okay.
Facebook and we posted into groups saying like, hey, we built this tool. Do you guys want to test it out? We can't do this, but like, here's a quick guide why you should do it.
Yeah.
And it just went completely viral.
Really?
Like it was insane. Like the students started like resharing it. We had a telephone number on our website for help, and they started like calling us. I was doing all the
crazy.
customer support the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was exciting because like suddenly, like it worked. Like people were interested in it.
Yeah.
And then we were able to raise a round of funding with
right
angel
away.
investors, which because the numbers look great. We also did a bit of marketing, and like the numbers were insane. Like I think we paid €1 per sign up back then on the website, which is unbelievable if we think about it now. And the customer it grew so fast that we said, okay, like I think we're really onto something here. And then we raised the first founding round with angel investors, and then we hired a CTO.
Okay. So before we get into that, I have a question here. And by the way, if anyone has questions, you can just like raise your hand and we'll give you the microphone. Oh, right away. Sven, do you have a question? Yes. You can move here. Maybe it's easier. I think it's more interesting, more interactive if we right away get some questions. So this is Sven. Is regular in the podcast. So.
So I have a question about the transition from having your Excel to actually having a business model.
Yeah.
How did you? So you had this Excel everywhere, and then you had to say, okay, now you pay. No. How did that jump happen?
So we didn't have it everywhere. It was an Excel that we built it wasn't our MVP. It was our design of the MVP. And we took that Excel and went to a freelancer to build the MVP because we wanted students could actually send it to the government. So there's an API, a government API by the tax authority. And we wanted the first iteration to have that feature that you could actually send it digitally to the tax office. So the Excel was just our design of the MVP, which then a freelancer built, and then but we didn't have a business model. It was for free. So we raised our first round based on it being free. Of course, this was also a bit of a challenge because a lot of customers were like, "What are you doing with my data?" And so we had a lot of people like
German customers.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
But we weren't doing anything with the data because we had like
selling to Facebook, so normal things.
That was actually a thing. Like recently, a American tax software company sold data to Facebook for marketing, so they could use it for marketing purposes.
That's crazy.
So you went from a zero revenue to angel investors, and then got your funding round with like no financial kind of. Okay.
Exactly.
One thing, and my co-founder Jean is here as well, and I guess we'll try to clarify this. This is something we're always discussing. So, it's been like 2 years for me since I like dropped my job to focus 100%, and I've learned a lot about entrepreneurship. In the end, I think the biggest lesson for me was that you just need to try a lot of things and try to find attraction that you have never seen before. And if you say like, how can you describe that? Like, you'll know. Because we had many projects before, and it was super hard to get 10 people on the website, something like per day or something. And suddenly we released Spot Squeeze, and we're getting a lot of traffic. And immediately we saw, okay, there's something here. My question is, do you agree with this, first of all? And where do you start when you're coming up with ideas? Do you start with the problem, which is what I always say to Jean, like we need to solve a problem. We need to figure out the problem and solve it. Or what would be, if you now have to start another business, like what would be your mindset to come up with the idea in the first place?
So I think at the company like that we're running, like fast forward to now, we're still running very much based on like problems, right? Like we're not based on like, oh, I have this crazy idea. Let's do a Wundercoin, and so people can buy their get free tax returns if they buy our crypto shitcoin. I don't know. We still try to do very much like what is a problem that our customers are facing. Right? Every startup out there is trying to solve, or every good startup out there is trying to solve an issue and focusing on that and not so much on the solution, right? I mean,
the problem is more important than the solution, because you can have multiple solutions. Maybe one solution doesn't work, but then you just implement another one, and if the problem exists, eventually it will sell. And that's what happened with the first version of Wundertax.
Exactly, but there's that notion, like the old saying with if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? But I think,
what do you think of that saying?
I think it's overquoted.
Yeah, definitely. but I've heard it so many times.
But it's also, in my opinion, too little thought, because you still need to ask your customers. It's a lot of first time entrepreneurs are like, especially first-time entrepreneurs quote that and are like, like Steve Jobs had a vision. He did an iPhone, he did an iPod, and I put it on the market, and his people bought his vision, and that's why I'm building my vision and not talking. Like, the thing is, if you've talked to customers, you still. I think the quote is. It's true in the sense that they would have said that.
Yeah.
But it's untrue in the sense that you shouldn't talk to your customers, because at the end of the day, the customers would have said, "Oh, well, this horse, like, I don't really like that it's pooping all the time, and, like, eating too much, and then it has to rest the whole night. I want to drive in, not drive, but
and then it'd be like, aha,
I want to ride in the night," and they would have complained about the stuff that is bugging the horse. They wouldn't tell you what it is. So they would tell you what's bugging you about it, and then you would go back into your and think about, okay, what could I build that solves
what is the problem
issues,
they want?
right?
What is the problem they have, and what can actually solve that?
So I think that's more the process that I have when it comes to like new ideas, or also talking to like first time founders or young entrepreneurs. Is that's like, having a vision is great, like fantastic, like if you have a crazy vision, like, go for it, but don't forget you're out here building a business, and like you need to build a product that actually people want.
It's a great point. So you clearly had a product that people wanted, and what Sven said is interesting. So you are not making money right away, and you raised money. How much money did you raise at first?
I think it was a quarter million.
$250,000, which is really good, right? So, how did you convince them? Like, did you show the numbers? Like, what is the process to find even an angel investor?
At the end of, back then we were still pitching as Studentensteuererklärung.
Okay.
And a lot of angels were like, "Oh, this is very small. But then, like, once we started being like, hey, no, like, tax returns is actually like the bigger thing, and it's a huge problem that people are, everyone hates taxes. Nothing is certain but death and taxes. Right?
True.
I love that saying, and it's a huge problem. And people, and like the angel investors, they saw that, and then when we showed like the customer growth curve, that was what convinced them. But having said that, like, that was possible for the first round, right?
Okay.
For angel investments, for the angel investors, but we didn't make any revenue, right? So at some point that money was just running out.
Right.
So
how did you use that money to build the platform?
We spend a lot of money on marketing and on hiring tech.
Okay.
Mainly tech.
Yeah. And in terms of marketing, so I guess you moved away from the Facebook groups?
No, I got blocked like 5 times.
I was about to ask that, like, because if every time I tried to go on Reddit, like, I've been banned from so many groups. I have, I think, 45 accounts now, but they already said, Tiago, no. Like, how do you...
I had to upload my passport a bunch of times. No, it was like, at some point, of course, we stopped because, we ran out of groups, but like also we didn't, it didn't scale, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
but we did a lot of Facebook marketing. I did a lot of, information. We built a lot of content for students saying like, hey, you should do this tax return
Right.
because you can get this tax bonus. We did a lot of like affiliate partnerships. Google was expensive back then for a company that didn't make money, but if people were searching for tax returns, they were actually like interested in doing a tax return
of
because
course.
nobody does that for fun.
Maybe someone for fun just searching it on Google. I didn't really need it.
Must
but
be a masochist. Yeah.
yeah.
But so yeah, that was like our marketing mix.
Okay.
We did what we learned also at the beginning is like because we'd had such a problem software, I would call it. People weren't like when we gave out flyers or something, like they weren't interested.
Okay.
But if it was clickable, it was very easily accessible in small bites, they would actually then do it.
It's something that people they will converge really well, I assume, when they are doing their taxes or it's that time of the year. If they are on doing something else, so hey, just do your tax. Like I don't care about it.
Our best day of the year is the deadline. Like by far, it's insane how like.
Give me some numbers. Like is like how does the traffic increase? Like 10 times?
So this year, the final day made up, or let's say the final 3 days made up 5% of our revenue of our yearly revenue. Yeah.
Wow.
It was
crazy.
it was sick.
So just I don't know, go to some party and take all this money like
we were sitting there just refreshing the browser, like looking at like people watch football football results. Like we were just updating where is it going.
Yeah. So okay, you were 2 at first. You got this first seed money.
Yeah.
How did the company grow? Like, did you start hiring?
Yeah, we hired a bunch of, we hired a bunch of people.
Okay.
But like I said, we didn't make revenue, and then we actually went out to try to raise more money.
Okay. But why didn't you start asking for money or like taking a percentage?
So that was the thing, right? Like we tried to do, like think of like more innovative monetization models. So we were thinking of like that tax bonus to do a loan on that or something, so that students would get the money immediately, and once they actually start working, they can give us that back because and the security was like the tax bonus. We were thinking of like those kind of business models, but at the end of the day. And a percentage revenue model, but the problem is that we weren't tax advisors, and only tax advisors would be able to.
Okay.
We couldn't do it. That's the thing, right? So, what we actually did is we tried to raise a round with Series A investors because we thought with our traction of user growth we could actually raise, but the investors said like, but you guys don't have those network effects such as Facebook that or
what year was this?
That was 2016.
2016. Okay.
So you guys don't have those network effects that other companies like social media companies have or like N26 or where the more users you have, the better the network works. Like we didn't have that. It was a straightforward business model. A funnel where people signed up and did their taxes.
And that was a deal breaker.
And that was for them. They were like, well, look, it's a great model. Your traction is good, but you don't have that monetary traction, and we don't think there's a network effect at play here.
Yeah.
So what we did is actually very, very quickly we were like, okay, we've heard this like 3 or 4 times. Let's try monetization, right? And we just asked customers for 35 euros per tax return. And what we saw is that actually the conversion rate numbers like didn't really go down. Like the customers were still paying for it. even though
That's very interesting.
like
yeah,
before it was free, right?
because they have no other. What would they do else? Or like,
I mean, there are other tools out there as well, but like what we found out was just that. First of all, it gave a bit of trust because again we're in Germany, so a lot of people are like, okay, that's how you earn money.
Yeah.
But the second thing was that, you know, like you said, the people they heard of it, they know it's good, and they knew it solved this problem.
Yeah.
And it was from a user experience perspective, the best tool out there for this specific target group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
how do you remember the feeling of first starting to ask for money and suddenly seeing, okay, actually you are making money and people are not dropping?
Exhilarating. It was crazy. Like we had an iPad that was on, and like we put it against the wall, and it just showed like the daily revenue numbers, and it was like, wow, people pay like 800 euros today for our service, and we were like,
crazy.
Holy shit, this is cool. We're like, they pay us?
Yeah.
What? We're just like a few people in the room, like
it's insane,
doing dick jokes. I don't know.
Can you paint a picture of like how the office looked like? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, very clearly. It was in the Alexanderplatz in this high-rise building. Not bikini. At the top, there's a bar. Okay, but it was like this little
bikini bar.
Weekend bar.
Weekend
bar, and it was this co-working space. It was actually just a company that like rented an office that was way too big for them.
Yeah.
And we had this little corner office that was so hot. It was like this little glass box. And it was so warm in there.
Yeah.
And we were in there just.
How many people were working in the company?
It was like 5 back then.
5, okay. Yeah. So not a lot. So it was you, your co-founder,
our CTO, and one developer and two interns, so 6 people.
Okay. So then you started making money, and I guess then you could somehow have more proof that the business would work. And was it easier then to raise your A series?
Yeah, it was much easier. So I think we had about 15 VC talks.
Wow.
And then we closed. We had offers from 3, and then we closed the deal on 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah. And how much money did you raise? The A series?
Back then it was quite small. It was $1 million, I think.
$1 million. Just $1 million.
1.5. Okay.
1.5. Sven, you have a question?
Yeah, related to the investors. How do you make sure very early on when you're asking for money that surely if they see a potential, they'll try to negotiate and get as best deal for themselves with regards to the stake or whatever? How do you make sure that you think about the future, right? So if we scale and if we give them 25%, that's going to be too much down the line. How did you navigate that negotiation?
Well, we told them exactly what you just said. We told them, well, that's just going to be too much, right? But I mean, the thing is, of course, I was 24 back then, so like we were still very young, and these were experienced investors, right? But we had angel investors that were very experienced entrepreneurs that were able to help us in these negotiations, and we had a lawyer on call as well, who helped us with these negotiations. But of course, like I mean, the thing is though that like we had so the thing is like once VC is a very 0-1 game. Like either they're interested in your business or they're not, right? Like even if they're like on the fence and you give them a lower valuation, they'll probably be no, right? So it's either yes or no, and then they try to negotiate. And the thing is, like once they want to invest in you, like, and you're 80% aligned, you'll probably get to a deal somehow, right? And we negotiated with them, and the thing is, like, once they want to invest in you, they're not exactly, like you are also doing your due diligence on them, right? We also called like the companies that they invested in and asked them like, how were they in the how were they once you worked together? How were they, in the next funding round and etc. Like we also have to do our due diligence for them. Right. So if they're too much of an asshole, like you also don't want them to invest, right?
What are the red flags that one should look for?
So some potential red flags are, like you also said earlier, if they want too much percentage, if they are very hardball on like questions of percentages and stuff like that. If they, one very hard no for us, for me personally, is like the bad lever clause, so called. So some VCs negotiate into the contract that they say if you leave the company you lose your shares, and that's always a hard no.
Yeah.
For me, like if that's definitely a red flag, because you know you're not enslaved to the company, right? Like,
and it worked for you. Yeah, we'll see that in the story.
No, I mean, like the thing is, like if you are with the company, right, and you get this bad lever in there, and then you're working there for what, 10, 5 years or something, and then you're like, okay, maybe this is not what I envisioned, right? And then you say you want to leave, and they're like, well, then you will lose all your shares that you worked for the last 5 years, and you'll be like, okay, well then.
I'll just stay and do nothing.
Stay and do nothing.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense for any side. So like if a VC puts that into the contract, in my opinion, that's an instant no from my side.
Yeah, makes sense. So now 24 with 1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Describe that feeling to me, because I don't know how it feels like. I would love to know.
I mean, it was we could do stuff, you know, like we could get an office, get a ping pong table, and
it was that part of the culture to like, because like a lot of us here, we worked at Trivago. The culture was like, I learned how to play kicker at Trivago, and then ping pong.
No, I mean,
what was the idea for you when you're like envisioning the culture of the company?
I mean, we also had it, but like, Trivago is a different stage, I would say. So they also have a bit more, you know. I mean, we were. How was the culture back then? It's a good question. Like, I mean, we still worked a lot, right? It was before, actually, like after the round, the pressure was on to like actually spend the money, right? The pressure was on to do marketing and hire people.
Interesting. So that's something that you feel like, okay, I need to spend this money. I have this money in the bank. Like,
100%.
Cannot be seated. Interesting.
100%. I mean, the VCs, like you pitch to the VCs, I need this money to grow more, to grow faster, to do all these features that I want to do. And if you take the money and you're like, oh well, we didn't do any of them, they're going to be like, what the hell, man? Like that's what we gave you the money for. So there was that pressure to build the stuff that we.
So what did you do?
Promised
marketing,
marketing. We hired a bunch of people. We grew the team to 30 people.
Okay.
Back then.
Yeah. So from 5, 30.
Yeah, to 30. Okay. And yeah, that's we moved to a new office. We threw a bunch of cool parties.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like we didn't do that much kicker. But we
cool parties.
Yeah, we did.
Was any police involved?
Yeah, there was one or twice. Once or twice they stopped it. But
is it true that once they joined you in a party?
It could be. Maybe remember vaguely. I don't know. Not sure. Who told you that?
Oh, I don't know. And so, as the CEO, you're the CEO, right?
I was co-founder with the classmate of mine.
Yeah. By the way, how do you decide which one is the CEO? Do you like fight to the death?
Everyone gets a small knife.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, it's a good question, because a lot of people, in a lot of dynamics, it's pretty natural. It's pretty organic, because the CEO is normally the one that's, like a bit more outgoing. That's the one that talks to the investors. That's the one, and the COO, like the operating, is normally the more inward facing. Like that's a lot of the constellations that I see, right? Like one more outward facing, one more internal facing. And at the end of the day, it's just a title though.
Yeah.
So like I know one company, they do data protection. They're both co-CEOs, right? but one is definitely more the COO type. The other one is more the outgoing type.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, like, don't get hung up on titles is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, makes sense.
Doesn't really matter.
So then 30 people, the company started to grow. And I guess when was the time when things kind of stopped going in the direction that you were happy?
So basically, me and my co-founder, we were very differently motivated. So he was very much driven by fear.
Okay.
So like fear is maybe a harsh word, but he was more conservative, much more conservative than I was. So basically,
what was he fearful about?
That it won't work out.
Okay.
Fear of failure, I would say. But like at the end of the day, like, we worked very well for a year, 1.5, but I wasn't exactly happy in that constellation, because like I was under, like we got VC money, we raised that money to grow, to hire people, and this is also kind of like the VC ride. They do expect you to, they expect you to grow, raise another round, expect you to grow more, raise another round, until you can't, right? Until you reach the revenue level where you kind of have to, turn ship and basically get profitable and become a company. Yeah. That's I think when startup scale up moves into becoming a company. Some companies, they can grow unlimited, right? Such as Uber. They're still not or maybe last quarter they were actually, but up until the IPO, they were still unprofitable because they were just able to grow more and more. Yeah. Right. And now they kind of hit the limit because there are just so many cars out there. Right. Now they kind of have to get profitable.
Never thought about it. So the idea is that you keep growing and growing and growing, and you just invest all the money into growing. Yeah. And once you kind of reach a plateau, then you monetize. But then you start
not monetize, but like actually
not monetize. You're already monetized, but you actually stop spending as much.
Instead of going on the top line, you fix the bottom line.
Okay. But then what happens with your customer base? Doesn't it start like going down?
Well, ideally not. Ideally, you're just stable or growing on a much lower level, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So you jump from round to round and try to catch those growth and grow into your next valuation. I mean, this is what is happening right now on a more macro level, right? People don't. Money's not that loose anymore. High interest rates, etc. And now they can't raise the next round. And now everyone's panicking, and a lot of business models out there don't really work. So a lot of people are panicking and kicking out a lot of people and trying to get profitable out there.
Yeah. So you wanted to grow more, faster, was it? And
basically, yeah. So basically, that's what I wanted to do. There was also another thing, which was TaxFix, which was a competitor of ours who started a little bit later than us. But what they did from the very beginning is they were always building for raising. So they had their tool could do way less than ours, but they were just, it was a nice design. They had great investors, like much more famous investors like Peter Thiel or Index Ventures and stuff. And they raised much more money than we did. So
you were feeling growing. Left behind. Are you a competitive person? Competitive, you're feeling
I would say so. Like you have to have a certain base level of competitiveness.
So you're feeling like, man, like I wanna beat them. And
I mean, these guys are breathing down our neck. Yeah, that was a bit more the market's large enough for multiple players, right? But at the end of the day, I wanted to, grow, spend money, and then raise the next round. And my co-founder was more like, in the sense of more conservative, to say. But we did have those conflicts throughout. And this was about 2 years in, and then at some point we also said, okay, this is probably not working out long term, right? And then
do you remember, like, where did you have that conversation? Like, or is it something that just piled up, or like You
Yeah,
sit
it's-
down one day and like, you know, you need to break up. Like,
It's very much marriage counseling.
Yeah.
It's you talk about stuff. You go through,
Yeah.
you know, talking about, oh, what did you say in that meeting? And
Yeah.
you know, like, what did you mean there?
So you start getting upset, annoyed with things that normally wouldn't make you upset. Is that it?
Yeah, kind of. And like he was also like I'm not a very confrontational person, and
Yeah.
neither was he, and it was very much built up.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And you would, you know,
Yeah.
go to a restaurant, and then like both of us were kind of, you know, like going through the motions and talking
Yeah.
about
Tired
things
and
that
annoyed.
didn't work. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
but
So you-
essentially, it moved towards like us talking with our investors about it and coming to the conclusion that maybe we shouldn't work together anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably really tough. And so he kept the house and you left.
The children, yeah.
Yeah, he kept the children and you end up leaving.
Yeah, so
Wundertax.
I left Wundertax. I mean, the thing is, like, he also had the initial idea, right? So,
Okay.
and we did
Right. So this is the co-founder that started with you from the
exactly,
beginning.
yeah. And it was kind of like the argument at the end. And
It was my idea.
It was.
You
I mean,
mean-
it was also okay, right? Like I didn't.
Yeah,
It
I
was.
get
It was.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was emotionally at the point where I was also like, maybe something else is not too
Yeah.
bad, right? And then I.
Did you think you could replicate Wundertax? Were you confident? Did you be like, I can find not replicate, not Wundertax, but like an idea, a business?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I basically thought, right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, then I'll just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, but like, I mean, we had grown-ups on board, like, you know, our VCs.
Yeah.
Our VCs were able to mediate, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. They were really good. They were really grown up about it. We did, you know, like the marriage counseling stuff.
So it's like
But-
your co-founder, and like a room of VCs, and then
A room of sounds a bit. It wasn't like our 1,000 people audience right
Yeah.
now. but,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was more of it was more like 3 people on
Yeah.
their side, right,
Yeah.
talking to us. But we no, so like, I mean, yeah, they continued, and I left the company, and a friend of mine was who I worked with at Food Panda. He was like, "Hey man, I have this project and
Yeah.
I don't have anybody to do it, and do you want to do it?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Sure." And then
right away, or
yeah, more or less. It was way too short of a
Yeah.
time in between,
Yeah.
and that was a co-working space in Berlin, and that was a startup roller coaster again. So we had to renovate 11,500 square meters,
wow,
and at the same time service like 3 companies or something on 2 levels. It was
Yeah.
I think 10 levels or something. And then renovate, and then, you know, like at the same time sell the office spaces and stuff like that. And I had nothing. I had a lot of like funding from the get go, because the main tenant, which
Yeah.
is Finleap, which is a company builder for fintech companies, they gave us money for
yeah,
you know, renovating it and doing all of that. So I did that for a year, which was extremely fun, but it was, you know, not long-term thing, because it was more of a, you know, like I like digital business models, right? Like, and as we know from WeWork, it's co-working spaces.
it's a hard business.
It's not
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's a hard business, and it's not that digital
Yeah.
either, right? And then I went to Amsterdam for 4 years
Cool.
to an old colleague of mine doing moving. So
Okay.
it was a moving platform for.
You're also building it, but not as. What was your role?
I was CMO.
CMO.
So
Okay.
They founded the company.
Yeah.
He and a classmate of his, and I mean, for me emotionally, it was also like, you know, I was living in Berlin for 2.5 years at that point,
Yeah.
and I was like, maybe before I go into the next thing where I want to, you know, stay a bit longer, like, do I want to stay in Berlin another, you know, few years?
Yeah.
So I said, nah, maybe try something else.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get very far, so I went to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
To Amsterdam.
It's a great city.
That's
Really cool
fantastic.
city,
It's
yeah.
it's a lovely, lovely place. Like, I mean, a lot of people know it as, you know, like the stagnant city, but it's so much more. It's great.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
and there's also a lot of things happening there, I assume. Like,
there's a lot of stuff in like the startup world going on there, and it was it was just a great experience being in Amsterdam and different country.
Didn't you miss being, you know, the driver, like on the wheel, and then being your startup, or that didn't matter much?
No, that was fine because I had a good relationship with them, with the two guys, and we had all the decisions together. Yeah.
And in the meantime, would you like be checking, because you still had shares? Because you didn't go with that
bad lever clause.
Bad lever clause. So you still had shares. Would you like checking what was going on with Wundertax?
Yeah, I mean, we were on the same side now, right? Like, we just wanted the children to grow up in a good way.
Yes.
So I mean, I also told them, like, hey, you know, we're now on the same side of the table. Like, if I can help with anything, like, let me know.
Yeah.
So we would have talks every now and then. Yeah.
And how was the business going while you were in
While I was gone, it was quite the telenovela. So essentially, because like I said with TaxFix earlier, they were raising, you know, everything and your mother. So it was they had
my mother.
They at their last round was in beginning 2022, and it was like 220 million. So in total they raised 330 million.
That's crazy.
I mean, they built a great company.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's huge. It's successful, but I don't know what they want to do. What, like, they have 500 employees. I don't know what 500 employees are doing there. If I'm honest.
Playing ping pong.
Yeah. I mean, so basically Wundertax had a hard time raising the next round because, you know, the VC market is very much like a kingmaker market. So, like, you know, if one company has basically the trust of the VCs, you know, Oliver Zamber of Rocket Internet always said, you can't raise money on number two. You know, like, and it's very true because so that, and Wundertax felt that. So what happened was, like, they had a term sheet by a VC, they signed it, they went to the due diligence, and in the last second the new investor, like, dropped out. Yeah. And that was tough, but basically my co-founder had to get, like, a new a CEO on top because like I mean, he didn't have to, like, it was also like his wish to do it as well. Yeah. Right. And and so basically this new CEO came, and they got new money from the existing investors, and then they left and then basically more or less the whole company left because this new investor was very much
That's when Roman left, right? Exactly at that time. Yeah. I'll just give you quickly the mic. Like, can you describe, like, when this CEO came and how the mood changed in the company?
It was a bit difficult at the time. I mean, I was leading the marketing team, and we were very open and very international as well. There were people from everywhere. Usually, even though we built a German product for German customers, almost everyone was speaking English. But it was difficult with this guy because he was like this typical German manager coming from a big telephone company with another type of attitude and ideas. So it was very, very difficult for us to get along with him and, like, have the same conversations. We felt observed all the time. So at some point, we had a meeting with the whole marketing. We decided, no, it's a bit difficult to stay here a bit longer. We're not having. It's not fun anymore, as it used to be. So, was a tense mood in the whole company. That's why everyone left at the end. So, but what I liked from this period was that everyone's really friends. I mean, this first or second generation of Wundertax, I'm still friends with them. So I'm still meeting them and having dinner. So
Was it some Daniel? Was some kind of you know, I know it's mean to say, like some kind of satisfaction somehow to see like, hey, I left and it's going down. And I don't know, because it's a, you know, awkward question, but like part of me, you know, the mean part of me would probably think like, I see, no, I told them. Was that the part of that, like, or not at all?
Not towards my co-founder.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Like the thing is, like, we also had, every time we talked about it, like, you know, at the end of the day, we were first-time founders, right? We were kids, right? We were very much like inexperienced, and we said stuff that was definitely wrong.
Yeah.
I said more right things though, but no, but you know what I mean, right? Like we were both reflective enough to be like, okay, maybe that wasn't just the best of times, but like, it wasn't exactly like, I mean, I think the answer is, I can answer this better when we like go to the next step.
Yeah.
Which was because
Okay.
I
Let's go.
I don't think I didn't feel Schadenfreude, as you would say in German.
I love the best German word,
Yeah,
you know?
because at the end
Shame
of the-
for others. Like, what is it? How do you translate this?
happiness and seeing
Yeah,
somebody else
yeah.
fail. It's a German.
Let's say an extra German word. You feel happy when you
It
see
says a
someone
lot
else.
about German
Yeah.
culture. But no, I didn't, because at the end of the day, also, like, it was my reputation was
Yeah.
there as well, because I was the co-founder
Right,
as well,
yeah.
and you know, not even the shares, right? Like it was more the I also built this for 2 years and not this working out.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then, what was the next step? How did you come back? Like, did you just get a phone call? Like, we need you.
No,
Like,
no, it was
yes, I'm going.
it was very basically, I wanted to get out of the company in Amsterdam. I was there for 4 years. It was really cool because, I mean, we were a moving platform. We also bought like a local competitor in the Netherlands. We bought like the assets of an insolvent company in Germany, in Berlin, and then we bought like an Australian company doing international moves. So it was really cool, you know, to do this buy and build kind of strategy. But if I would have wanted to do that, I would have become a banker.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't. I wanted to be in the digital space. So I was doing a bunch of like freelance work, doing like interim management, CMO stuff, a lot of marketing, growth, advisory, and I then reached, and then like the new old CEO, I didn't know a single person at the company anymore, and the CEO he wanted me to sign something, and I didn't. I forgot again. But like, and then he called me, and then I was like, "So what's going on with the company?" He said, "Like, I'm gonna leave." And then I wrote an email to the investors and was like, "Hey, so what's going on with the company?"
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, well, nothing, because like I said earlier with VCs, right? They want to like grow, and then they want to have a big exit with
Nothing, and that's the problem.
So that was the problem,
Nothing's
because
going
they like, and I get it, right? But they had a lot of investments that were much more successful that they had to, and they only have 24 hours in the day.
Yeah.
So they weren't diverting a lot of attention toward it, but they were the grown-ups, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to them, and I told them about like my ideas and everything, and they were like, "So what are you doing right now?" Right? So, and then it got quite quick, and then I met up with Roman, who you heard earlier, who was back then head of online marketing, and with Allah, who was back then senior engineer. And we met up in a Spanish restaurant in Berlin, and I was like, "So Wundertax, that's happening again." They were like, "What? What are you talking about? Like, what did you smoke?" And I was like, "No, it's like I'm actually talking to them, and this could be something." And everyone was very excited, and then I got the contract, and I actually, beginning of 2022, came back as CEO. Roman immediately, Allah shortly later, and brought the band back together.
Yeah.
And we started doing stuff that we wanted to do back then. You know, it was a different stage of the company.
Right.
It was a different stage. So the previous CEO, what he did very well though is he made the company profitable. Like he was able to, you know, cut some costs and do the marketing much more focused on existing customers. But when we came in, we said, oh, there's so much more potential to this. So we started, you know, investing into like getting out a lot of software that was unnecessary costs. We moved into a service office, but most importantly, we also hired more people doing product and marketing because that was all outsourced. So we hired them back in. We started doing like marketing campaigns on all channels, so Reddit, Snapchat, TikTok, all of Meta, Google,
podcasts.
Podcasts. That's why we're here.
What? It's just a marketing
Yes, do the tax return, even if you're not in Germany.
And use my codes.
Yeah. No, so it was extremely fun because we were exactly, you know, I said stuff like, back then I was like, we have to be on every, you know, channel and we have to, and we just did that. And we also launched a bunch of new products such as the Grundsteuererklärung.
The Grundsteuererklärung.
Which all people had to do that owned a property in Germany. And we launched a bunch of new products, and we also always had that to get it full circle. We did a lot of, you know, testing. We did a lot of testing what works, what doesn't. Such as, you know, like we had the theory that Google Shopping could be a cool channel, and then we tested it really quickly, and then we saw it wasn't, so we shut it down again. And it's same thing with these different tools. Right now, we're also testing, you know, like for pensioners. And the last 2 years have been fantastic. It was the best decision of my career that I've done.
So the company started growing again, and
still remained profitable.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
That was. Yeah, I mean, what we tried to do is we focused on, you know, keeping the fixed cost base low or like, you know, optimizing that, but then at the same time growing our gross profit. So we were in a different stage, right? We weren't, so I'm not a pure, like saying like, oh, you have to get VC money, right? So we also couldn't, because we were now like a medium-sized company, I would say.
How many people?
Now we're 20 people, like more small, medium-sized, right? Like small, medium SME company, and we were trying to not grow our top line. We're not trying to grow, you know, our revenues, but we were trying to grow like sustainably. We were trying to grow our gross profit numbers and not overspend on marketing.
Yeah. What a story.
It was a roller coaster.
What a roller coaster! But in the end, everything so far seems to be great. So it's really cool, and I guess like my last question, then I will maybe allow for if anyone has questions. But my last question would be like, if you could do something different, like now you could go back in time and do something different. And I know this is always a hard question, so I'll just feel and keep talking as you are thinking about, and the weather is great. Now, but what would that be?
So from a business perspective, I think. From a business perspective for Wundertax, like we should have definitely, we should have raised more, faster, or like at least like not gone out to be, because we were very like cautious about like our fundraising strategy. We were very like, oh, well, you know, like let's keep it behind doors and stuff like that. While TaxFix like raised a lot. So, but the thing is, like at the same time, I have to also, I'm not saying like VC at all costs, but enough for your business model, right? You know, don't rate a lot of like overhyped startups. They raise what they can and not what they should,
right?
Or what they need.
Yeah.
So I would have said like if we would have been earlier and more aggressive on the whole VC strategy, we could have definitely, you know, like grown to a much bigger level. I don't know, like I don't think 500 people is the way to go for this business model, but I think from a business perspective that would have been a smart move. Yeah.
And now you're working with your co-founder again?
No.
Okay.
He's not in the company anymore.
Okay.
He left.
Okay. So he left when
The new CEO came.
when it's CEO. Okay. But you're in good terms.
Yeah, we're in good terms.
Yeah.
No
Good
doubt.
story. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing your journey here in the Wannabe Entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And anyone, I guess Sven, anyone has questions? It's a great opportunity. We have the CEO of Wundertax here. Biresh, please come to the pulpit.
So regarding the tax filing itself, right? It's Wundertax has, as you said, is in a competitive area where there are other players as well. So going back to what you said before in terms of trying to focus on the problem and not just the solution of it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in terms of filing taxes and the problems in that space that are currently there, how do you see Wundertax actually trying to strategize to get to a point where people are not really afraid of the whole process, right?
Yeah, I think the last sentence you said is the most important one, actually, because people are really afraid of taxes, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, well, if I put this in there or wrongly in there, I'm going to do tax evasion and the tax authority is going to arrest me. And, people are actually very, very scared to do something wrong. So a lot of people, even though they wouldn't have to, they either hire a tax advisor or they don't do it at all. And on average in Germany, you can get like 1,000 euros back as a normal employee because you always have something to deduct. But 10 million people don't do it because they're just afraid. And I think how we try to address that is, of course, there's a big, it also depends on who we talk to, but there's a big component of content, right? We try to write a lot of content explaining stuff in an easy language. We do a lot of, TikTok videos in short formats saying why 5 good reasons to do a tax return and try to keep it the language very simple. In our tool itself, in the actual product, you don't see things like you have to use Form M or Form NAUS or something like that, right? So we try to do very natural language to get people through it and show. Because if you use the government software, I would say 90% of the fields or 95% of the fields are probably not relevant to you, but our tool we try to minimize that and show 100% relevancy. So if you say I have children, then the children thing pops up. Mm. But in the government tool, you'd have to scroll through the children, stuff like that. UX, having good UX is a key to be able to address that fear, that respect with the complexity. Yeah.
I totally agree. I think if there's something missing in taxes, it's a good UX. Yeah, Sven?
So I've used TaxFix and Wundertax and Story Go on and off. I was swapping around because I wanted to see which one is actually showing me the correct number, right? Because I would sometimes get different results.
Okay.
And I think so. The last one I submitted through TaxFix for the exact reason that you mentioned. I think making it sounds silly, but just the simple fact of scrolling past pictures and entering single data points inside made it seem less intimidating.
Yeah.
And what could go wrong? There's just a field I put in, it's a 0 or 1, and then you go next. How do you, when you have such competitors, how do you navigate should we follow their path with regards to design, stick to our own thing? Should we follow their path with regards to VC, stick to our own thing? How do you make sure you lead, you don't follow and try to copy, but...
Yeah. That was a good question.
It's a very good question, and it's a tough question because that's basically my job. What I have to ask myself.
Can't you sell a course? Maybe?
A lot. The thing is, what I've learned in this case. So, I think I've said also stuff. I've said stuff things I doubt about TaxFix on a business sense, right? From a strategy sense, but. their tool for the use cases that they have is great. Like it's if you are only like a employee that has employees income, and just a very easy case scrolling through it with your smartphone, of course it's great. It's a well designed app. It's very nice UX. But what a lot of people why a lot of people use our tool is because we've focused a lot on web. So we're very much like a bit more grown up, I would say. So if you have a little bit more complex stuff, you can use us much better than if you just, scroll through it. Because to be honest, like stuff, if you have income from as a freelancer, I wouldn't want to do it on my phone. I would want to, do it on my computer. So I mean, this was also like kind of the strategy that like my predecessors had. They were like, oh no, like taxes, people want to do it on the web. For the larger market, I would say that was definitely wrong. Like people want to do it on your phone, the phone, right? For the easy cases, for the majority of the cases. So that was the preamble. To answer your question, I think for us personally, for us as a company now, we have a lot of catch up to do on the app side, right? We're working on that. We're making our mobile experience much better, because a lot of our customer base that has used our tool in the past and have easy cases, they're more or less going to the app, right? To the mobile experience. But at the same time, we also want to focus on our strengths. So we've seen, for instance, pensioners using our tool. They use the iPad, and that's a web interface, right? Like, and we focus on that strength, and we focus on like building out our tools so that it's also more or less feature complete. So, long story short, I would say, my focus is look at the market. What do the customers want? What do the users want? Where is it going through? And have that as an important factor to build towards. But at the same time, also see what your strengths are, and develop your strengths. Your why your current customers are using your tool. Right.
Mm-hmm. What is your differentiator factor?
Exactly. I mean, it's also very business model dependent, because we're living off of the recurring customers, right? This answer might be completely different for a different business model, because they might have daily customers or even like just one-off customers. Like then the answer gets completely different. But because we have those yearly customers, a big portion of our revenue comes from existing customers. We also have to see, like, why are they actually there?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I think we'll close up. I mean, we can just continue offline, but it's already too long for me to edit. No, okay. But I appreciate you coming here, Daniel, or I guess we both came here. But it's really cool, and this amazing audience, of people. So this was another wannabe entrepreneur, and see you in the next episode. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Woo!